It says, "Who is more likely to max out a credit card?"
The moment was jagged. The camera's lens barely avoided the tremor in her smile. In a hushed podcast studio, John Stamos, longtime friend and on-screen brother, leaned forward and spoke with the weight of 4 decades behind his voice. Whatever he did to her, it busted her up to the core. In that single phrase floated the ghosts of broken trust, of promises unkept, of the facade of perfection crumbling under the glare of truth. And there, in that moment, the world realized this was not simply another celebrity soundbite. It was a reckoning. She stands, perhaps, on the shattered edge of what once was, and bravely steps into a new dawn. This is the story of Lori Loughlin, actress, mother, public figure, woman, and the viral reckoning that now shines a spotlight on the man she once loved and the scars he left behind. Fade in, a megawatt smile amid studio lights. A young actress, the embodiment of suburban cheer and earnest optimism. Lori Loughlin, with her golden blonde hair, her poised posture, the glint in her eye that promised warmth and sincerity. From the sitcom sets to the tabloids, she has been both icon and target. The Aunt Becky, forever etched in the cultural memory of the 1990s. But behind that familiar face lies a story of ambition, love, trust, betrayal, and redemption. A story of a woman who played many roles, both on screen and in real life. She eloped with her partner in one of the most picturesque celebrity weddings of 1997, raised 2 daughters under the unblinking gaze of the public, and weathered storms that few outsiders could imagine. Now, at age 61, caught in the thunder of fresh headlines rather than applause, Lori is the center of a narrative that is at once deeply personal and universally resonant. How does one reclaim their self-worth when the scaffolding of their life, marriage, reputation, identity, begins to collapse? Against the backdrop of Hollywood glamour and public scrutiny, she stands, not as the perfect image we remember, but as the human being behind it. And this is her story. We travel back to 1988, when Lori stepped into the bright lights of television as Aunt Becky on the beloved sitcom Full House, a role that gave her adoration and familiarity worldwide, that projected an image of wholesome family values, an anchor in American pop culture homes. This moment, when the girl from Redwood City, California, became an American household name, represents the first defiant triumph in her arc. In late 1997, Lori eloped with designer Mossimo Giannulli, creator of the Mossimo fashion brand. They would share 2 daughters, Isabella Rose and Olivia Jade. Together they built the image of the golden couple: Hollywood actress, fashion mogul, children, mansion, success. This moment stands as both a jewel and a cautionary signpost that even perfect-looking lives hold unseen fractures. In 2019, their world tilted. The college admissions bribery scandal erupted. Lori and Mossimo were indicted, accused of paying $500,000 to secure their daughter's entry into the University of Southern California under the guise of athletic recruitment, despite the daughters not participating in the sport. In 2020, Lori pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit wire and mail fraud, served 2 months in prison. Mossimo served 5. This moment is both a wound and a turning point, where the myth cracks and real life comes rushing in. Fast forward to October 2025. Their nearly 28-year marriage reaches its breaking point. The separation announcement, the shockwaves in media, and then John Stamos's blistering defense of Lori, naming Mossimo a terrible narcissist, placing the blame squarely on him. This is the moment when the private pain enters the public sphere, when the microscope turns inward, and when Lori's next chapter begins. The story begins with bright lights and early promise. Lori Loughlin, born in 1964 in Queens, New York, raised in the sanitized ideal of family values, religious upbringing, modest ambition. She stepped into acting young, found early success, the kind of breakthrough many dream of. By the late 1980s, she was Aunt Becky, beloved, cheerful, idealized. But within that role lay the early chasm between persona and person, between image and the interior life that no camera can fully capture. Enter Mossimo, the designer, the entrepreneur, the charismatic partner who seemed to complement her world. They married in an elopement on day 2 of Thanksgiving in 1997, sealing a life together. 2 daughters were born, Isabella and Olivia, and the family built a life of privilege, connections, success. Hollywood parties, fashion launch events, the green lawns of hidden hills. They were the picture of success. But as the years passed, the first cracks began to show. The demands of celebrity, the burden of expectation, the weight of maintaining an image of perfection. In private, Lori has spoken of mistakes, of resilience, of getting knocked down and getting up again. Online. These comments seem benign on their face, but they hint at much deeper layers. Then came the storm. March 2019 brought the joint arrest of Lori and Mossimo in the sweeping FBI investigation into college admissions. The scheme was complex, using fabricated athletic credentials, payments through straw donors, fake recruiters, all to enlist children into elite universities. For Lori and Mossimo, the target was their daughter's admission into USC's rowing program, though neither daughter rowed. The cost? Approximately $500,000, Cosmopolitan +1. When the guilt pleas came in May 2020, the world watched closely. Lori was sentenced to 2 months in prison, Mossimo to 5. Lori served her term, completed 100 hours of community service, and paid a fine of $150,000. Mossimo paid more, served longer. EW.com, the courtroom became another stage, but this time the lights revealed vulnerability rather than glamour. Out of the prison doors, Lori returned to a world changed. The public had new questions, the tabloids new fodder, the friendships new tests. Her on-screen brother, John Stamos, reached out. He had known her for 40 years, worked beside her on Full House and the Netflix sequel Netflix's Fuller House. In 2022, he had claimed she was less the architect of the admissions scandal than the follower, the one who didn't really know what was going on. Cosmopolitan. In 2025, that voice grew louder. In a podcast, Stamos stated, unequivocally, that he blamed Mossimo for dragging Lori into that scandal. He called Mossimo a terrible narcissist, said Lori, put up with a lot, and, heartbreakingly, that whatever he did to her busted her up to the core. He ended the interview with, "I pray that he gets a hold of whatever hole he's trying to fill." People.com. Meanwhile, for Lori, the war had shifted. It was no longer against public perception. It was against the wreckage inside. The split with Mossimo emerged as the next headline. In early October 2025, her representative confirmed the two are living apart and taking a break from their 28-year marriage. No divorce filed yet, but the rumor mills churned. News.com.au. What precipitated the split? According to reports, Lori discovered incriminating text messages and emails on Mossimo's phone. Sources told Page 6 the messages shattered trust. Lori wants nothing to do with him. Cosmopolitan +1. Let's pause here and consider. A woman who once embodied the ideal of wife, mother, Hollywood star, now must reinvent herself at 61. The public still knows Aunt Becky, still sees the sitcom veneer, but inside, a new narrative is unfolding. One of survival, reclamation, and voice. We delve into the emotional interior. Imagine Lori alone in the Hidden Hills estate. Once echoing laughter, clinking glasses, golden afternoons by the pool. Now still, the echo of footsteps faint, the air heavy with questions. She looks in the mirror and doesn't always see Aunt Becky anymore. She sees a person who made mistakes, paid for them, who loved, trusted, was betrayed, who built, lost, survived. Compounding that, the daughters. Olivia Jade, social media star. Isabella Rose, an actress and founder of a knitting brand. They were younger then, shadows in this drama. Now grown, the daughters face their own reckonings, their own identities. For Lori, the maternal mantle shifts. How does one mother adult children through scandal, separation, and reinvention? And then there's the cultural context. We live in an era where celebrity falls fast, where image is everything until it is nothing, where the private becomes public in milliseconds. Lori's crisis is not just personal. It is emblematic. It is about trust broken by those we love, about the cost of silence, about the gamble of believing you are chosen for love, and then discovering you were merely an accessory. In the podcast studio, October 20th, 2025, John Stamos' voice cracked with the weight of his decades-long friendship. 40 years I've known her, he said. You can see through people after a few years. This woman's a saint. I'm just heartbroken for her right now. He described Mossimo as the mastermind of all negativity. The negativity and hard hardships you've been through in your life is connected to this guy. Page 6. For Lori, the story moves forward. She has begun speaking of forgiveness, of rising again, of not letting a moment define her. Every day, we're met with different obstacles, she told First for Women in 2024. For me, it's like that song says, I get knocked down, but I get up again. E. Online. The line, innocuous, hidden in a magazine interview, becomes the spine of the narrative we now witness. Now we witness the next chapter, the separation, the bruised marriage dissolving under public gaze, the commentator voices weighing in, the world divided. Some see Lori as complicit, others as victim. But regardless, the woman at the center must walk the path. We see her in meetings with her PR team. She reviews scripts. She debates cameo appearances. She contemplates philanthropic work. She dresses carefully now. No more celebrity couple looks. And sometimes dresses simply. Black sweater, loose hair, a quietness in her stance. Because now she is listening to her interior voice. We see the daughters. Olivia Jade posting an Instagram story. A quiet sunset, no caption. A subtle code for, I'm here, I survive. We see Isabella Rose at a knitting brand event, surrounded by yarns and bright fabrics. Intentional contrast to the glitz and the scandal. Their lives pivoting, recalibrating, just as their mother is doing. We see the estate listed for sale. Hidden Hills, once a fortress of family, now a symbol of release. The real estate listing hits the tabloids, $16.5 million price tag. Some see it as an escape, others as surrender. Lori sees it as the next step toward freedom. We see the world's glare, TV panels dissecting the Stamos podcast, social media memes referencing Aunt Becky's prison book club. Yes, Lori joked she met a lot of nice ladies in there. But beyond the jokes lies real pain. The jokes trivialize what it is to serve time, to be stripped of normalcy, to watch your life disassemble in front of millions. Trust. Lori trusted a partner, a marriage, a life of shared ambition. But she discovered the partner had been orchestrating, manipulating, maybe always self-serving. The messages on his phone weren't just texts. They were the fingerprint of unraveling. From the outside, we see the collapse. From the inside, she feels rupture. She's computing. If I'm a saint, as Stamos says, what does that mean now? Is it still valid? Or is it a label she must earn again? And even more, what does freedom look like when you have been defined by others, husband, daughters, image, scandal? Meanwhile, the landscape of Hollywood watches. Other celebrities whisper. Pundits pontificate. The hashtag trends and fades. But for Lori, this is not ephemeral. This is life. And life doesn't fade. It reforms. It burns. It rebuilds. So she writes journal entries in the quiet of dawn. She meets with a shrink. She walks her dog along the Hidden Hills Road near LA. She stares at old photo albums. The one where Mossimo holds her hand at the altar. The one where the daughters ride bikes in the yard. The one where the crew team fraud press conference became the darkest day. And she sings. Because when you lose everything, you may still sing. Maybe you sing louder than ever. Maybe you sing for the self you lost, and the self you still can claim. In the press, she remains poised. She issues no grand statements. She walks the carpet recently. Humble dress, quiet beauty. People ask, "Are you okay?" She replies, "I'm reconstructing my life." They nod, some understanding, some don't. She doesn't mind. Understanding isn't always for the public. And the trend we witness is not just tabloids and podcasts. It's the metamorphosis of Lori Loughlin from sitcom queen to scandal survivor to, now, woman forging a new identity. The viral moment, John Stamos' public avalanche of support and accusation, a die-hard friend publicly calling out a narcissist ex, blaming him for everything. That moment catalyzes the shift. It forces a reevaluation of everything we thought we knew. In that podcast studio, the microphones record more than words. They record allegiance. They record reckoning. When Stamos says, "I will never talk to him again," he signals that the era of silence is over. The era of taking one for the image is over. And now the image falls away, and the human emerges. For Lori, the next scenes remain unwritten. Will she produce a memoir, launch a foundation, return to starring roles? Or will she step off camera, rebuild quietly, turn inward, and emerge not as Aunt Becky, not as the wife of Mossimo, not as the scandal figure, but as herself, resilient, lucid, awakened. And in that future, we may see her walking into a new dawn. The roses on her estate may bloom again. The daughters may walk beside her with renewed trust. The Hollywood lights may gaze at her with softer glances. Because she changed the story. Because she survived. Because now she is free. If this story moved you, if the raw truth of reinvention, of breaking free, of rising from betrayal resonates, then stay with us. Hit like, subscribe, follow for more stories that peel back the glamour and reveal the human beating heart underneath. Share this journey, spread the truth, and join the conversation. Because Lori Loughlin's story is not just hers, it is ours. The story of trust and betrayal, of image and identity, of ruin and reclaiming. And the next chapter? It begins now.